Our next speaker in the lineup is Tom Muse, and just before we get to Tom, just one observation I wanted to make on the issue of downtown Montauk and post-storm recovery. You know, I wanted to say that there are communities, Nags Head and other places, that have looked at post-storm recovery. When we did the waterfront plan in East Hampton Town, Montauk Business District was kind of kicked down the field to be looked at later on. That process is kind of underway, and there's a great risk that that process doesn't really get to the biggest problem, which is what do we do in the event of a catastrophic storm, and what do we do afterwards? And I think for people living in Montauk, one of the things to tell your elected officials that's important to you is taking the time now to try to figure out what we're going to do in the event of a catastrophic storm, because in the absence of that, however painful the decisions may be now, I can only tell you that once there is a catastrophe and buildings are floating around in the middle of Montauk, many of the decisions get made with haste, and many of the decisions tend to repeat the exact same problem you had to begin with. So it's important to have this continuum going forward of good planning, good recovery planning, and trying to do it before there's a crisis. Point, I think one of the things is that when the local municipality decides to take this on, with reference to the question about funding and who's going to pay for some of this, you're more likely to get help from your partners in the county and the state if there's an initiative that starts locally, builds support, shows that there's a program in progress. The state of New York is not going to drop in here anytime soon and say, okay, Montauk, this is what you're going to do with your central business district. The town needs to try to set those parameters, and then those parameters and goals are taken up by advocates like us and CCOM and Nature Conservancy and others, and we try to get that funding at the state level. So there's a real connection there between the local decisions and then getting the buy-in from the larger government partners. Tom Muse.
So thanks very much. Surfrider Foundation, national organization with, as many of you might imagine, a lot of members here in Montauk. We've got good waves here, so we're happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation, and very nice to be here. Thank you. I'll talk about some local issues, and we changed the schedule up a little bit, and I think it's this natural synergy, because I'm going to try to see if I can really talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of what's going to happen to us here in Montauk. We have a lot of, Montauk is, the downtown Montauk area is very low. I'm sure if Sara had the maps, the inundation maps, we would all be wondering, you know, we'd all be wanting to grow gills, because we're really going to have a radically new future here within the next, 50 to 100 years. And we love this place. We nurture it. I do live here in Montauk, and I want my son Cassius Lee to have the same experience as I do with the beaches and stuff. I want to have great beaches. We want to have surfing. We want to have clean water, and I think all of us share those desires. When I think about beaches, beaches are very dynamic places. So I started thinking about some very intelligent person, Sir Isaac Newton, who said objects in motion tend to stay in motion. And if you think about beaches, they're millions and millions, they're made up of millions and millions of particles in constant motion. As we walk to the beach, we walk on the beach, you go back the next day, and the whole landscape has changed. It's all about motion. But what happens is we want to live close to the beach. We want to grow structures that are not in motion. We don't want those structures to be in motion. We want them to be static. We want them to last a long time. And they're part of our economic and our social ability. We need housing, we need economic activity, and so we have a conflict, an inherent conflict in developing coastlines that are kinetic and flux, in constant state of flux, and putting in structures. What slows objects down that are in motion? Well, friction slows objects down. What happens when you put buildings in a kinetic landscape is they create friction, and they change the dynamic and the natural dynamic. So that's the argument behind that, and that was the inspiration behind this statement. Montauk is, everybody knows it, but aerial, when you look at aerial, I mean, think about Montauk and when you conjure up Montauk in your mind, you think about the beach, and it's just a very narrow little lens of what Montauk is, but it's very precious and it's constantly moving. As we zoom in, we see we have structure, we have a very dynamic environment here where sand particles are moving on a daily basis. Millions of cubic yards of material is moving with the wind, with the ocean, with the tide, with the rain. Storm water is flowing, and we've applied very fixed objects into this very dynamic landscape, and that's creating some challenges. And as we get sea level rise, the challenges will increase. And this really tells a story as you have these undulating lines and these fixed objects that we're putting in. One of the things that I think about, and I'm probably not going to make any friends, but I don't think of erosion as a problem. Erosion is the reason why Montauk is the way it is. Erosion is the reason for every grain of sand that we go to on the beach. It's all created by erosion. All those particles were larger at some point and became smaller by the forces of erosion. Wind, sun, freezing, ice, collision, and kinetic wave energy. Erosion created Long Island. Erosion has been going on since the beginning of time. Glaciers create, the whole world has been created by erosion. The problem is our reaction, the way we deal with erosion, our ignorance of it, our wanting to not ignore this very natural process. It's like being angry that the sun is rising in the morning. Erosion's not going away. You cannot stop erosion. Erosion control methods and things like this, these are going against gigantic natural processes that are way beyond and create the landscape that we live in, the hoodoos along Shadmore Bluffs. That's erosion. Everybody, we love erosion. All right, erosion is great because it's made us what we are today. What we have to change, it's our mindset that we need to change. Everybody's been down at Ditch Plains. I was just down the other day, and all of a sudden Ditch Plains is a whole new place. You know, it's very vulnerable just by this little deposit of larger aggregate that was piled up there. You see the beach do wild things, and one day you go there and there's a giant carve out. It's a big scoop downdrift of the jetty there. Really dynamic things happening at the beach all the time. One of the things that when we get involved on the beach and we do things on the beach, we really do have a tendency to change what happens. This is this stone work that's been going on for years in front of Montauk shores. This is part of a little bit of the disconnect. And Sara says we need some better coordination between our local officials. We need a coastal policy, and East Hampton adapted a coastal policy. But we have a lot of disconnect between the internally in East Hampton town. We have natural resource departments and planning departments that are going in different directions. We really need, as a group, citizenship, we need to look for and call for a united approach, because we have these fragmented things that happen. This project has been going on. Now you see, we don't have a lens of beach in front of this. As storm activity comes off this stone that's been placed here, it has a lot of energy when it retreats back. I have some slides about the dynamic of that. These rocks in the DEC permit were supposed to be 50 to 150 pounds. I walk along the beach, several rocks are 1,000, a half a ton, 3/4 of a ton. So we have activities happening on the beach that are at odds with our local planning, and we need to streamline and look for coordination amongst our local officials and our town officials.